Welcome to this shortwave radio channel, and this is another look at the shortwave frequency spectrum, megahertz by megahertz. We are looking at 23 to 24 megahertz in this video. Now, this is another portion of the shortwave spectrum that is extremely quiet. Out of memory, just like that, I don't remember ever listening to anything in here. It still doesn't mean that there's nothing, and I'm pretty sure there are some stuff popping up from time to time in here when propagation is there. But I'm trying to remember. I was looking at the frequency allocations of 23 megahertz, and probably if there's a megahertz range where I never heard anything, 23 to 24 is that frequency range. And probably the only, if I look at any megahertz of the frequency spectrum of shortwave, it's probably the only frequency, the megahertz range that I've had nothing. And this is out of memory. I might have heard stuff in the past and I just don't remember, but I don't think I've ever heard anything in here. That said, there's some stuff in here because it is actually allocated to fixed land mobile stuff, utilities of all sorts, and there's even a small portion dedicated to aeronautical stuff around 23,200 to 23,350. So that means when propagation is there, it's not impossible you'll hear something. There could be a lot of things in here. And one of the problems when you have a frequency range like 23 megahertz where you don't hear nothing, you have a tendency to actually forget it and never tune there. And that is, of course, something that I always say never do. Always go to the frequency ranges, even the ones you never heard anything, and take a peek from time to time, because you never know what's going to be in here. But it's probably for me at least, what I would call the emptiest space in the shortwave spectrum. That's a shame. Maybe they should, convert that megahertz to amateur radio allocation. Have a full 1 megahertz spectrum there. Could be interesting and would have stuff to listen to. But I'm sure, when you look at the frequency list, there's always things everywhere. I was looking at the Monitoring Times old 1000 HF utility frequencies, or best 1000 frequencies, something like that. And in the 23 megahertz range, there's a lot of stuff that is actually written there. Civil Air Patrol, U.S. Air Force, and aeronautical stuff. So, that means that there are some frequency allocations. There are some stations that are allocated to use this frequency range. But with low solar activity, it's even worse because you get even less of all the details of what you can probably hear in here. So 23 to 24, a quiet place. But maybe we should monitor that quiet place a little more often. Maybe it's not as quiet as we think. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up, and hope you enjoy our look at the frequency spectrum, megahertz by megahertz.